Hi, I'm Nusanaiwal, and I'll be the host for today's podcast. Welcome back. For those who don't know, the Chris French Professional Career Exploration Club is an organization dedicated to interviewing professionals from many different career paths. We aim to help students find a career that's right for them. And we have a very special guest today. Give a warm welcome to Corey Shrack. Mr. Shrack studied at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and did his Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering. He's currently the Senior Project Manager at Nasland Engineering. Mr. Shrack, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So what got you interested in civil engineering?
Going back to, high school or even before, I was always interested in math, excelled at that. In high school, we had a couple teachers that, essentially kind of guide us, had guest speakers, basically just kind of, help us pick which career path, to go toward. We had one speaker, I remember, who was an aeronautical engineer, and I really wanted to do that for a little while and just kind of explored what that meant, and decided it wasn't quite right. When I applied to Cal Poly, you have to declare your major. They don't let you switch around at all. So I just picked civil engineering. I'd always liked construction. Going up, sorry, I had a couple pop-ups on my screen there. So luckily, it fit, all the classes I took at Cal Poly were, interesting, and, there's a wide range of, aspects of civil engineering. There's so many different kinds of engineering, and even within civil engineering, there's different, disciplines that you can focus on. It's great. You get this program, going, and happy to help.
What does your daily job routine look like?
For me, I've been with Nasland Engineering for 21 years. It's the first job I had right out of college. So I've been a project manager since 2006. So, my daily routine is a little bit different than some of the younger engineers that are doing a lot of the AutoCAD design work. So for me, first thing I do in the morning is, check my email. There's usually, anywhere from 5 to 20 that come in overnight. A lot of people work, especially now that everybody's working from home, or a lot of people working from home. A lot of people will send emails after business hours. So I usually stop work around 5. So, anywhere from, like I said, 5, sometimes up to 20 emails that come in between, 5 p.m. when I stop working and the next morning. So that's the first thing I do, try to respond to those right away. And then I'll check my calendar, prep for kind of what's coming up for the day. Whether that's a meeting with a client or in-house coordination with projects, or, stuff like that. And then throughout the day, I'll just, have various meetings, help my design team with, problems on projects that they're working on. I have a team that works, under my direction of 4 engineers, and, they have basically each, several projects they're working on. So in any given day, I could be, thinking about, 10, 12 different projects that we have going, and kind of the various stages of those. And another aspect of being a project manager is I write the proposals to our clients, essentially who we work for. They need to know, what we're going to do and how much it's going to cost. So that's a big part of being, in project management is, budgeting how much time we think it'll take, and then putting that in writing, to our clients, and, essentially describing that, what we're going to do. So they're going to hire us, they're going to pay us X, amount of money. What are we going to do for that? And what aren't we going to do for that? So, a lot of people like to joke that engineers can't write or whatever. Writing is a huge part of, my job, and a lot of other types of engineering too. So, it's not all just math and science. You need to be able to express yourself, written format too. So.
Yeah, and that ties in like really good into our next question about like what are the best traits for being a senior project manager?
So, I mean, for any type of engineer and my job especially, I think it's attention to detail. There are, in any given day, so many different things that you're dealing with, and you have to be able to pay attention to all that and also multitask. So, it would be great if I could just work on one thing and then finish it, but there's always 5 things that pop up in the way. So you have to be able to, kind of jump off the track, get back on, kind of always be, nimble and thinking on your feet. Another trait that, I think is just, you got to be excited about what you do. I mean, have a positive attitude. With my team, that's one of the things that I always, do when we do our yearly reviews is, are you always, positive thinking, about, how things are going to work, or are you doom and gloom, like, oh man, this didn't work out for me. I'm failing, or, whatever. You want to just, move past the problems, work through them, but, have a positive attitude.
Yeah, so what traits do you look for when hiring an employee?
So, I don't personally get involved in a lot of the hiring. We like to hire, interns at first. So we hire a lot of interns from San Diego State, some from Cal Poly if they're, essentially local San Diego kids, and would be living there for the summer. But we really like the San Diego State students that can work during the year. Essentially, they get to know how we do business and how we run things, and then they get a feel for what we do as a company. And so a lot of times, the interview process, from intern to full-time engineer is there really isn't one. It's like, hey, you're already working here. Do you want a full-time job? However, in the times that we do interview, I've sat in several interviews, and it's kind of the same thing. Like I said, just positive attitude. Are you excited about the work? Are you willing to learn? Obviously there's somewhat technical stuff, like is your grade point average like not really low. I mean, we don't need 4.0s coming out of college. We look for extracurricular activities, and once you get into college, if you have had an internship, or did you work at the Gap, so it's when you get into college and you kind of pick a major, whatever it is, just, try to get involved in that industry, interning or, research as much as you can. Because, if somebody comes to us and says, yeah, I want to work for you guys, but, I really don't know what you do, then how are we going to hire somebody like that?
So do you guys ever hire like high schoolers for internships?
We do not. We do have a program, a shadow day program. And with COVID, we haven't really been able to implement it the last couple of years, but sometimes we have high schoolers come in and essentially, see what we do for the day. We call it the shadow program. They, sit with the different engineers. But unfortunately, it's usually college, third year and above, for internships.
Okay. And how has coronavirus changed your work? So you were talking about coronavirus with the shadow program. So like, how has that changed your work completely?
Yeah. So the biggest thing was, when COVID started, basically all in-person meetings shut down. right? So, our industry historically has been a lot of in-person meetings, site visits to construction sites. We go to the, city of San Diego or county of San Diego, wherever we're processing our plans through, have meetings with the reviewers. So there's a lot of hands-on, in-person, work. So when that shut down and everything went to Zoom, everybody just kind of had to adapt. And so, that was probably the biggest thing, is just getting used to virtual meetings. And then another thing that we had to get used to was the agencies that we get our plans approved through all went to online permit processing. So for decades, the way that it worked is you printed out plans. Our plans we do are 24 by 36 inches. You print them out, you roll them up or fold them, and you send them down to the city or the county, wherever you're processing, Caltrans, whatever. And then they give them back to you. They red line them with a pen, they give them back to you. Well, all that went out the window. So the cities had to adapt to an online permitting system, all with PDFs that we're submitting, and plan checking using Bluebeam or other PDF programs. So that actually was a little bit of a learning curve for everybody. Definitely is saving a lot of trees. I don't have to print as much, plans on paper. And construction didn't stop. We still had to go to construction meetings with, masks and staying 6 feet apart and that kind of thing. But those are probably the biggest changes there.
Okay, so like, what are some challenging problems you had to overcome at work?
There's a wide range of stuff that comes up, and part of, back to, what I do on a daily basis, or what makes a good project manager is problem solving. So, some of the problems that could come up could be, during construction is a common problem. So, our plans that we design are for, civil engineering items that are outside of the building. So if you were building a new building, we would design the parking lot, we would design the drainage, the storm drain, water lines, sewer lines. If we were designing a street, it would be the curbs, the gutters, the, storm drain inlets. So that's the type of stuff that we design. So when contractors go out to build it, and either they don't understand something on our plan, or the conditions out in the field are different, or sometimes it occurs there might be an error on our plans, we have to jump on it just immediately, because for construction, they're always out there working. If you delay them, that's just time that is taken away from their schedule. So that's kind of the biggest thing that comes up, is if there's a construction issue, you got to jump on it right away, solve it. So that could involve, going out to the construction site, meeting with the contractor. I go, hey, looks like this, say you were going to connect to a new, your new drainage pipe, storm drain pipe, to an existing one. On our plan, we thought it was, 5 feet deep. It's really 4 feet deep. What are you going to do? You got to figure out if you can redesign something. How much is the contractor already built? So that's kind of a common example of a problem. Additional stuff could be, you have, a deadline that you're trying to hit. You have a delay for whatever reason. You're trying to explain it to your client. As a difficult client, they might, get a little pushy. So, I mean, there's lots of things that come up, and, it's important to work through it. We have a lot of resources in the company, any company does, and talk to the, most senior people, bounce ideas off people, and just kind of, it's a very team oriented, industry. So, it's not just one way to do things, with one person, having all the answers. So it's a collaborative effort.
Okay, yeah. So you mentioned like team effort and a collaborative effort. So like, are those some of the challenges that you face while acquiring your position?
So I mean, uh, acquiring my position just it kind of comes, somewhat naturally. I mean, um, at our firm, we're a privately owned, family-run business. So, there's different ways to advance in your career, right? So, if you were to work for a company like ours, I have currently um, my direct boss is our director of engineering, and then above them or above him is the two owners. So I mean, there's not a lot of levels of bureaucracy for us. So um, it's essentially you do a good job, you're going to advance um, in your career. So um, I've had my current position, for a long time. There's different levels of responsibility within what I do. But early on in your career for civil engineering in particular, but other aspects too, you want to get your professional engineering license. So that is essentially the PE behind your name, your initials. If you see people's business cards or email signature, PE stands for professional engineer. And for our industry, that's essentially the mark that you have, achieved that certification, and it comes with a lot of respect, and in the industry, because it's a very hard test to pass. I wouldn't say um, exactly comparable to like the law bar exam, but on that same general level. So getting that early in your career is important, for advancement. And some companies or agencies might have differing opinions of that, but in general, it's a very important milestone.
Okay, yeah, and you mentioned the levels of bureaucracy. So like, do all like starting engineers right out of college, do they start at like the employee level and they work up to like the manager and then senior project manager? Is that like how it works?
Yeah. So, with private companies in general, yeah, you start out as, entry level engineer or design engineer or staff engineer. There's different, titles, but essentially it's, right out of college is you have your first title. You probably work for a couple of years doing that. Meanwhile, you're gaining experience, and some companies like ours, they'll have the next position would be like a senior design engineer, 2-3 years experience. And then after that, it's kind of, you're stuck there unless you get that professional engineering license. And from there, you become a project engineer. And so essentially you get more responsibility. You start having, other engineers that kind of are working under your supervision. And from there would be project manager. And so in any given company, there's probably only a handful of project manager positions. So sometimes people will kind of run up against an issue in their company where they're like, well, there's no room for me to advance at this company, so I'm going to go somewhere else. So I've seen a lot of people essentially company hop and, always looking for the next best thing. And sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. I mean, I've been with the company for over 20 years. There's other people that have been there even longer than me. So, I think that if you find a place that, that treats you well and you like working at, they're probably going to find a spot for you. It's always, I guess tempting to go and look at the next best thing. I know people that are, my age that have had like, I don't know, 5-6 different jobs. Every few years they're jumping around, and it might be right for them, but not for me.
Okay, and to wrap it all up, can you give us an elevator pitch on being a civil engineer?
Yeah. So, Civil engineering is, a very rewarding career. One of the things that I like best is seeing our designs, built. So we take something that essentially, comes out of our brain, we create it, we design it, a contractor builds it, and it's there, essentially forever, within the lifespan of, whatever that may be. So it's a rewarding career that, it's in demand. There's always going to be a need for civil engineers. We deal with infrastructure, for, the nation that is required. There's always going to be new roads, new utilities, new buildings being built. So it's a very stable career. You have a good salary. When I was in college, we had a guest speaker that came and he said, as a civil engineer, you're not going to be rich, but you're going to be comfortable. And I felt that was good advice. And I've seen that too in my career. It's not a get rich quick industry, but it's a well-respected, career that's going to be stable, and it's going to be, help, provide for, anyone that pursues it.
So this was a very insightful interview. Thank you for sharing incredibly perceptive advice about your career. I hope everybody watching learned as much as I did. A huge thank you to Mr. Shrack for joining us today, and we are SRPCEC, and we hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.